prevailing concern was whether or not, having assembled this group, whether or not we had done enough to rally ourselves around an effort to go into communities where we had concerns about getting returns. My outreach to you was based on the fact primarily we have relationships with many of those challenged areas, and wanted you to be a part of the conversation today so that we hear how certain of the count processes would work, all those kinds of things, and we overlay some of what your activities might do to inform an opportunity to engage the folks and see if we can quell enough concerns to get census forms removed.
Okay.
Well, returned rather, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What are some of the barriers that are resistance for people to participate in the census?
Okay.
So the common populations that have not generally participated well are students, homeless people, African American men from 18 to 35, and Hispanic and immigrant communities, and that growingly from 2000. And then generally people who've been on public assistance who are living under the table, or anybody who sees themselves in one way or another living under the table. So the issue of barriers is you can see from that, but it's beyond it too. So in general, there is some anti-government sentiment and mistrust that we know exists in community. Some of it historically in Durham has some history, let alone the experience of the reaction to the 287G program and these driver's licenses checks where people are Latino people, and there's been some racial profiling generally with it, but folks who are detained and deported based on issues of not having a legitimate license. And then there's this issue of concern about intrusion of privacy. There's the issue of, there may be this lack of confidentiality, and our situations, whatever we don't want known, might get known to the wrong parties, whether that's another government agency or whether that's landlords or banks or creditors, those kind of concerns. Then there's the issue of literacy, both English literacy and even literacy in other languages. And so the Census Bureau has the forms in 6 languages, and then for people who speak languages other than that, they have these things like guidelines in different 60 languages, I believe.
54.
That 50?
54.
Okay, 54. That will help them know, okay, on this line, this is what you're supposed to put. But the challenge with that, as I understand it, is in order for people to get those guidelines, they have to actually call and request them. So that's another barrier. And I guess there's people who also think that what good is a census? It won't benefit us, or we don't ever get benefit anyway, that kind of stuff. And then some who think that immigrants or people who are not citizens are not supposed to be counted. So there's a lot of misinformation about the count itself.
Now, she wanted me to explain my strategy with the Hispanic community, so I don't want to take off
Let's do
too much
strategy.
time. Okay, the strategy that I have is that I really want to discuss the census, and at the same time, when I have that particular group there in front of me, I'm going to have the forms to have them completed. Because in the past, I found out if you come and share and discuss the census and everything, and then you walk away, they go back to their community or their neighborhood or their, and they start talking about the census, and other people put bad thoughts in their heads. And I hate to say that, but that's what happens. So I found that in the past, the best thing to do is when you have a group of people and you're talking about the census, you be ready with the form and be able to assist them. And that way they could recognize what is the true form, because there's 2 forms going around. There's a survey form, there's 15 pages.
I have an example of it right here.
Okay, so what happens is when they see that form and they complete that form, and then they see our form, they say, oh no, I already did the census.
So if we're talking about reaching out to certain neighborhoods and certain constituencies, this is something where, in terms of preparing those organizations or those volunteers, it's where the more focus could be given. So there's one thing about preparing it, and it's another about preparing folks, whether that's helping them do role plays, doing briefings. So I think one of the things is to whom needs to be briefed, and how do we organize those? Is the second piece. And the third piece that you raised, Constance, about the different organizations, partners or otherwise, that we have some relationship with, is what is the strategy to activate them? Because even this list we've had here of the Complete Count Committee, well, we have to do that, the same thing with these folk. So I think those are three major pieces of work within a time frame of, like, by next week. How much of this could we have done, and who's doing what? Is to hire some community organizers to work in community, to mobilize volunteers, to prepare them, and to support this work. And the Census Bureau, remember, had put out that
Mini
they
grants.
have jobs for enumerators. And we pushed, our first push was to try to get people from these communities, hold on a second, to be able to participate, get past the test, and do that, right? So the point is that, they don't know yet how many people they can hire. So the point, though, is that there is some real work that needs to happen quickly, and to even get and recruit and, put out there, coordinate volunteers.